Welcome back to the Lines College Football Podcast. I'm Brett Gibbons with TheLines.com, breaking down some weeknight college football action on both Thursday and Friday in Week 5. Before we get into it, don't forget to follow The Lines on Twitter, and I am at Road to CFB. I'll be here every single week breaking down the weeknight college football slate, and also check out my weekly college football handicapping tools that I'm posting at TheLines.com, like a weekly cheat sheet, weather report, upset alerts, and much more. And be sure to check out our full lineup of shows, including the Lines Monster Pod, featuring Steven Andrus, Matt Brown, and more. But let's dive right into this weeknight slate. First up on tap on Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. on ESPN, we have Army, a 13.5-point favorite at Temple. This game carries an over-under of 45.5 points. Army is 4-0 coming into this game with conference wins over both Florida Atlantic and Rice. Not exactly the strongest opponents, of course, but their average point margin of plus 20 is pretty darn good against them as well. And they're taking on Temple, who is comparable and by aggregate power ratings, actually worse than both of those teams. I'm not really accounting for much home field advantage here at Lincoln Financial Field. Temple last year filled less than 20% of their capacity on average. Look, that's worse than the FBS. And they also hosted Miami, which helps skew those numbers a little bit, get some more people in the stadium for that one. They just really don't fill it all that much. It's just simply too big of a venue for that program. And Army's not really coming from too far away. They're only 2.5 hours away from Philadelphia. And then on offense, look, Army is back to old Army, right? They're rushing on over 86% of offensive plays so far. This is just a great matchup for the Black Knights. They ran for over 400 yards on FAU, 288 yards on Rice, and Temple, well, they're 130th in rush EPA allowed so far in the season. Now, my question, and the way that I'm dissecting this game and looking at this game, is what would the line be if Temple didn't score 45 points on a terrible Utah State defense last week with backup quarterback Evan Simon, counted for 6 touchdowns? I mean, you also look at it, the Owls were outgained in that game. You know, they won by a couple of scores, but they were outgained by Utah State. This is not a good defense at all, and it's a markedly worse rush defense than what Army's already dealt with. It's a less talented team. Army has less travel and is a less imposing venue. This is all Army to me. This is one side. I'm making this line closer to 20 points with aggregated industry power ratings. Moving forward, on Friday night, 7:30 p.m. on ESPN, we have Virginia Tech on the road at number 7 Miami. The Hurricanes are 19.5-point home favorites, and the over-under here is 55.5 points. Now, Virginia Tech, they've fallen far short of their lofty preseason expectations for many, myself included. Hand up, we missed the mark on that one. They have outright losses to both Vanderbilt and Rutgers. They're minus 13.5-point home favorites against Vanderbilt and 3.5-point favorites against Rutgers. Lost both of those ones outright. Miami on the other side, they've looked the part. I know it's been weaker competition. USF isn't that bad, but they've really looked the part. They're currently tied for fifth in the nation in average scoring margin, beating opponents by 40.3 points per game. I mean, just ridiculous. That's FBS opponents, by the way, not even including FCS. This was a game of the year line that was posted, Miami minus 8.5 if you looked at it this offseason. It then reopened at minus 17.5, and it's gone north from there. Mario Cristobal, though, not the best track record at Miami or Oregon at that point. But in Miami, he's 4-12 against the spread against ACC foes. Of course, this team feels a little bit different. It's more talented. They're getting the wins more dominantly than they have in the past. It just feels a little bit more serious. But we'll certainly see if that's the case against their upcoming ACC slate. Now, conversely, Virginia Tech head coach Brent Pry, he's just 3-6 against the spread as a road underdog at Virginia Tech. The Hurricanes are getting back 2 key pieces on Friday, as if they needed more, but they're getting 2 guys back, left tackle Jalen Rivers and edge rusher Ruben Bain. Bain is a dominant player. We're talking all ACC, potentially all American caliber with how good that he is, and he is now back in the lineup. Neither one has played since week 1. Now, the route for Virginia Tech, if you're looking to back Virginia Tech despite the market movement, here's kind of the route you have to look for. That Miami is showing a different color against the ACC than they've shown against their non-con, and they're also a heavily penalized team. They're 111th currently with nearly 75 yards a game. But you're talking about opposing QB Cam Ward. I mean, man, he's just playing at a Heisman level. He's the current favorite here ahead of week 5. I'm not sure that Virginia Tech's going to be able to score to keep up with Miami's offense because Miami's defense is very strong this year. And the Hokies, they really haven't shown it offensively. They're just 72nd in offensive EPA so far. And Miami's defense, I get the suspect competition, but they're still number 1 in the country in defensive EPA. So when I'm looking at this, we're getting above the key total of 55 points at 55.5. I'm taking under there because I don't think Virginia Tech's offense is going to be able to score enough points, barring Miami covering this the vast majority of this total on their own. In our last game on our Week 5 weeknight slate, we have the Washington Huskies on the road at the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Yes, this is a Big Ten conference game. Rutgers, the home team here, is favored by 2.5 points, and the over-under sits at 44 and a half. This game kicks off at 8 p.m. on Fox. Now, Rutgers opened as a 3-point home favorite, but that got bought up. And it was also over, we're looking at 45.5. So I said it earlier, but that's disappeared now. It's moved through the key figure of 44 when we're talking about college football totals, the third most frequently occurring number. Now, I'm watching the availability of a couple of Rutgers defenders. It's been a team that's been a little bit banged up. It hasn't really shown it yet. They haven't gotten bit for it yet, but they have been a little bit banged up. Their top linebacker, Motori, he's out for the whole season. And the other linebacker, Tyreen Powell, he's dealing with an Achilles injury. He returned to the field last week, but played like 46 snaps. He's still questionable. I would just keep an eye on him. They did pull him off the field as soon as they did not need him. Washington, of course, this is the big story. They're traveling back 3 time zones from coast to coast, and they're doing it with a day less. Now, if they're playing on Saturday, they would have a bonus day to be able to get to Piscataway, but here they're doing it on a Friday. That's a big advantage for Rutgers, in my opinion, because they're both playing on a day short of rest, but Rutgers doesn't have to go anywhere, and Washington has to fly all the way across the country and get readjusted to now being 3 hours ahead. So, the Huskies' defense, it's been pretty stingy this year. I know they played against Weber State, Eastern Michigan, Northwestern, I get it, not good offenses. But they did hold Washington State to just 136 yards on the ground. And this is a team that's been running the crap out of the ball on everybody. Washington State's been a terrific team. I do think that their defense matches up pretty well with what Rutgers wants to do, which is line up hand the ball off to Kyle Monangai and say, here you go 50 times. That's how we're going to beat you. Now, defense, in my opinion, travels better than offense. There's a lot of data to back that up. But finishing drives for Washington has been a big problem on offense. So if we're talking about maybe not traveling as well, and they've already had a problem finishing drives, you just look at that Wazoo game. They had 5 drives inside Washington State's 30-yard line, and they came away with 0 touchdowns. Now, that's a testament to Wazoo's defense, but that Wazoo defense just gave up 52 points to San Jose State. So we're not talking Georgia's defense. We're not talking about Ohio State's defense, not Miami's defense, right? 5 trips inside the Wazoo 30, 0 touchdowns. They had 4 field goals, and then they were stopped at the 1-yard line to end the game there. And in total, because they were unable to come away with points in the 30, right, inside the opponent's 30, but got there frequently, they did outgain Washington State by 70 yards. Now, my numbers, which is an aggregation of a bunch of industry power ratings, respective power ratings, make this closer to a pick. I do manually adjust. I'm a little bit down on Washington compared to the industry here, but it's closer to a pick. But look, I'm just not buying Washington under 3 on the road with everything kind of laid out there. Both offenses, though, they've been surprisingly efficient. Washington is 17th in offensive EPA, even if they're not finishing those drives all that well, and Rutgers is 43rd. We got under that key total of 45, so I think I'm going to play back the over at 44.5. The way I believe that the Huskies are going to keep this closer to the projected pick'em is to score more points. It's a low total. I'm thinking something like 28-21 here either way. That's going to put us over the total. I'm taking over 44.5. But hop on over to our Discord server where you can connect with over 4,000 sports betting fans and get live updates in our college football channel. There you'll join a sharp and very, very active community. Here we are rolling almost into October. It's never been more active than it is today. Don't forget to subscribe to the Lines YouTube for weekly college football odds and betting videos all season long. And subscribe to us on your podcasting app of choice, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever you're using these days. And if you liked what you heard here, please drop us a good review. But thank you so much as always for watching. I'm Brett Gibbons. We'll see you next time.